Good morning. Y'all take a seat. Get comfortable. It'll warm up. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of the Brazos Valley. My name is Reverend Kaya Hartwood, and my pronouns are she, they. And we're very happy that you're here. It's a very exciting day. We have a special service for you. As soon as everybody gets their name tags and gets in here, we'll get going. But we're going to experiment with a song this morning. And I like to say there's a little magic in the world. So we're going to do something a little magic. So I want you to imagine the lowest note you can sing and make the sound ah, and make that sound when I count to 3. Are you ready? 1, 2, 3. Ah. Sounds pretty good. Okay, now this time I'm going to count to 3 and adjust yourself. Go up or down till it sounds more beautiful to you. That's all. 1, 2, 3. Ah. I know this rose will open. You can keep the ah going. I know my fears will burn away. I know my soul will unfurl its wings. I know this rose will open. Now, those of y'all who need to know what's going to happen before you allow it to happen, we're going to do it again. I'm going to count to 3. You make an ah sound. You keep it going on the bottom, and I'll sing on top of it. Does that sound okay? We agree? We got a plan? Okay. 1, 2, 3. Ah. I know this rose will open. I know my fears will burn away. I know my soul will unfurl its wings. I know this rose will open. Just a little musical magic to start out the day. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of the Brazos Valley, UUCBV, or Brazos UU for short. My name is Reverend Kaya, and I am serving as your worship associate today. Welcome, y'all. Come on in. We are a welcoming congregation, which means we celebrate and welcome all people of diverse sexual orientations and gender identities. We're also going to welcome all our pets on February 4th for an animal blessing service. So if your pets are well behaved or you want to bring them in a cat carrier, come and bring your pets and we will bless them. It'll be fun. Plus, we're going to have a new member ceremony because we have about 10 new members joining the church. Exciting. Okay. We also strive to welcome people across diversities of race, age, ability, immigration status, and belief. We are also a congregation working for reproductive justice, which we desperately need in Texas. So whoever you are, wherever you have come from, wherever you are in life's journey, you are welcome here. Our call to worship this morning is number 458. The hymnals are underneath your chair if you want to read along. Some people like to do that. And Ian, I need your help to light the chalice. Our call to worship is number 458 from Walter Royal Jones Jr. And he says, mindful of truth, ever exceeding our knowledge and community, ever exceeding our practice. Reverently we covenant together, beginning with ourselves as we are, to share the strength of integrity, thank you, and the heritage of the Spirit in the unending quest for wisdom and love. Walter Royal Jones Jr. Thank you, Ian, for lighting the chalice. So please say our chalice lighting words with me. We light the chalice, the symbol of our Unitarian Universalist faith, as a beacon of hope for all who seek justice, dignity, and compassion, and in celebration of the life of truth and meaning we share together. And now we get to say our affirmation statement. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its gift. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. As Unitarian Universalists, we celebrate that there is a spark of the divine in every being. Hi, Warren. Nice to see you. And we want everyone to acknowledge the spirit and the spark of the divine in all the people in this room. There are a lot of people in this room that I don't know the first name of. People have their name tags on. New people often don't, so ask them their names and say howdy, okay? And I will let you know when it's over. At this point because it sounds really good.
Good morning, everyone. I'm so happy to see all of you. Good. Is it a good morning? Thumbs up, middle, thumbs up, thumbs up. Yeah, good morning. All right, today we have a story that is called the Everything Seed, and you can think of it as a UU creation myth because it's used in every religious education classroom for a very, very long time. It's called the Everything Seed, a story of beginnings. Can everyone see the images over here? All right, I'm going to keep my book down, but if you can't see over here, just raise your hand and I'll show you the images from here. Have you ever watched a seed grow? Have you ever noticed how it began so small, so still, so quiet, like a gift wanting to be opened? And how slowly it wakes up, begins to unfold, growing into something larger and larger and larger. Then you know that whatever comes from a seed usually ends up looking very little like the seed it came from, which is also very true of the first seed. Once, long, long ago, way back before the beginning, So long ago, there was no such thing as time because there was no one there to count it. Everywhere was a huge, deep, mysterious place, like something waiting to happen. There were no stars, no sun or moon. There was no place like Earth, not a drop of water or a single tree or rock or flower, and no living beings anywhere. But in that deep, waiting space was hidden the tiniest point of something no bigger than a seed. It was not a flower seed. It was not an elm tree seed. It was not a seed of corn, although all those things were included in this seed. You might call it an everything seed, because that is what it became. No one knows where that first seed came from, or how it was planted, or how it knew, in the way that only seeds seem to know, how long to wait for just the right moment to sprout and grow. But all at once, this tiny seed, cradled and nourished in the rich soil of space, woke up, broke open, and began to unfold. Unfolding, unfolding, and blossoming forth into an enormous, blazing ball of bright light, like a great grandmother's son. And the universe was born. Out fluttered the galaxies like a storm of snowflakes, swirling and gathering into the brightest, most blindingly beautiful cloud of stars. And out of those star clouds whirled our very own star, the one we call the sun, and our Earth, and the moon, and all the round spinning planets we have learned how to name. And the secret of that tiny seed, you and I were there in the very beginning. Just as the idea for each leaf on a big oak tree lies hidden inside an acorn. We were there with all the stars and planets, all the rocks and oceans, plants and animals and people. Everything that is now, ever was, or ever will be, was inside that first tiny seed. So, whenever you hold a seed in your hand and wonder what it could become, imagine how you and all that is here once came from the tiniest speck of an everything seed before it sprouted and grew long, long ago in the way back beginning of time. Now, if this were an ordinary story, it would end right here. But this story of the universe keeps unfolding. What once began in a blazing blossom of light continues every day. New stars sprout open in the deep soil of space. New plants and animals appear on the earth. Seeds of many kinds are scattered everywhere to help us remember. And new people are born every day with the spark of that first light still alive and burning deep inside, waiting like the everything seed to shine in ways that are yet to be known. So remember, when you're planting your spring gardens, well, maybe not immediately, just in case there's another freeze, but this month at some point, remember those tiny seeds that you're planting could be everything seeds. All right, now all the younger UUs who want to come to religious education, I'll meet you at the back, and would you all sing us out with this little light of mine,
Now, if you get your hymnals out, we're going to sing number 151, I Wish I Knew How It Would Feel to Be Free. It's your turn, Bobby.
Or, can you hear me now? All right. Well, the title is Evolution in Christianity, which may not be the very best title. Is this too loud now? No? But, and I am, in fact, going to talk about when and how people first arrived on Earth and how that influences my thoughts about Christianity. But I'll start from the very beginning. And by the way, I hope I can kind of rush through this because there are things I would rather talk about in addition that influences my views of Christianity in addition to just evolution. But we can start at the beginning, 4,000, whoops. Does this work? Testing. Not that it matters, I suppose. But, okay, I had a longer chart here that went all the way back to 4,000 million years ago when life first appeared on Earth, and it appeared in the form of microorganisms, and that's all we had for a very, very long time, are these microorganisms. And they're still with us today, and good thing. Because life wouldn't be possible without the microorganisms. We couldn't live without them, but they can certainly live without us, as they did for 85% of the time of life on Earth. But in any case, moving right along, if we go up to 600 million years ago, let's have the next slide, John. 600 million years ago, bigger things started appearing on the Earth. And some of those big things left fossil evidence, which is easy to see. Anybody can do it. Anybody can go out and see some rocks and you see something, hey, that looks like a clam shell, that looks like a snail shell whatsoever. You don't need any training or knowledge to recognize a fossil. Furthermore, if you look a little closely at a pile of sediments like this, you will see, anybody can see this, that there are different organisms at different layers in the sediment. That's, of course, because they represent different times. The sediments have to be laid down layer by layer by layer by layer, with each layer being younger than the one underneath it. It can't be any other way. So there's no denying that life has changed over the past 600 million years. Some wonderful creatures that I'm not going to say anything about. So let's go from 600 million years to 6 million years in the next slide. 6 million years ago, down here, I don't know whether you can read this, doesn't matter. 6 million years ago, a creature appeared on Earth who was an ape, but it walked upright on 2 legs instead of shuffling along on all 4. And then as we go along over the 6,000, 4,000, 3,000 on up, we get things that look more and more and more like a modern human. I'm not going to say anything about all of these, but you can find these fossils if you know where to look, just like you can find fossils of other animals. Of course, the fundamentalist Christians say all of this is just a liberal hoax that was cooked up probably by Nancy Pelosi. But in fact, you can find these things. They are real. You can see them in the zoo. And if you know where to look, you can find them in the field. But I'm not going to, as I say, I won't say anything more about those. I'm going to go from 6 million years ago to 0.6 million years ago. So here's my next slide. 0.6 million years ago, that's 600,000 for the mathematicians among you. And we get the Neanderthals, the famous cave people. And they were wonderful, wonderful creatures, very, very successful creatures. They looked a lot like us. I don't think any of them looked like some of our movie stars, but I think some of them may have looked a little bit like Trump supporters, but I'm not certain of that. Anyhow, we have the cave people here 600,000 years ago. We come along 200,000 years ago. So the Neanderthals, I didn't put this in, I guess. They were with us until 30,000 years ago. So there's a big overlap between the cave people and us. And we were so similar to those cave people, we were actually their cousins. Both we and the Neanderthals have common ancestors. They are not our ancestors, they were our cousins. And like cousins in certain parts of the country, there was a certain amount of interbreeding between the Neanderthals and humans. So most of us have a little bit of Neanderthal DNA in us, some more than others. My wife Terry is very proud of the fact that she has above average amount of Neanderthal DNA. And it does kind of help me understand some of the things she does. But anyhow, that's really all I'm going to say about evolution and how people first appeared on Earth. Of course, this is not the story you get in the Bible. The Bible has a completely different story. And the Bible insists that humans, us, are totally different than any of the other creatures on Earth. And this is where I start disagreeing then with the Bible, because I think it's abundantly clear that we are not completely different from the other creatures. The Bible would insist that one difference is we have a soul that's going to live on after we're dead. Well, I don't believe that. When you're dead, you're dead. We are not that much different from our ancestors. And we got here through a long, gradual process of becoming more and more and more human. So how can you draw a line at some point and say, okay, before that, no souls, no eternal life. After that, yep, souls, eternal life. Makes no sense. So I reject that, and that being one of the main tenets of Christianity, that's where I part ways with Christianity. Now, I was going to talk about some other things. What time is it? I've got time. All right. So I'm going to jump ahead then from 200,000 years ago to 2,000 years ago. Lots of stuff going on 2,000 years ago. After we got rid of the Neanderthals, we killed them off, we spread very rapidly. And by 2,000 years ago, there were probably about 300 million of us on the earth, everywhere. There was no part of the earth that didn't have people. But I'm just going to talk about some people who lived at the eastern end of the Mediterranean, Egypt, Israel, Syria, that area, 2,000 years ago. I'm losing my train of thought here. Lots of other people, of course, as I say, all over the world, and lots of people doing lots of interesting things. But I'm going to specifically just talk about 3 people. Millions and millions of people were born in 4 or 5 BC when Jesus, Paul, and John were born. Millions and millions. But we'll just talk about these. And, of course, concentrate on Jesus, because he has had so much influence on people ever since. So let me tell you something about the person, Jesus, what is known about him, what is agreed upon about Jesus. It's agreed, as I say, that he was born around this time, and we really don't know much about him until he gets to be 30 years old. When he's 30 years old, he starts a preaching career. He had to wait until he was 30 years old because that was the rule among the Jewish people of that time. So at 30 years old, he starts preaching, and he's real good at it. He's very charismatic, he's smart, he says all kinds of interesting things, and crowds of people start coming out to hear him talk. This goes on for a couple of years, and the crowds get bigger, and you know what's going to happen next. The Roman authorities grab him and crucify him, which is just a normal course of events. That's what they did to anybody that they perceived as maybe being a troublemaker. So that's kind of the end of the historical Jesus, and about all we know about him. Well, he said so many good things and influenced so many people that those closest to him tried to kind of carry on after he was gone. It was mainly his brother James who took over leadership of the group, and they did what they could, but really without the charisma of Jesus, they weren't able to attract crowds or do much of anything. On the other hand, there's a guy named Paul who was born at the same time, with just a coincidence. A guy named Paul who was walking down the road one day soon after Jesus had been crucified, and he met Jesus along the road. And Jesus says to Paul, "Paul, I think you should start a church." And Paul says, "What? I'm not a preacher. I can't start a church." "Sure, you can start a church. It's easy." So Paul started a church. And then he started another one and another one and another one. And that's how we got the Christian religion. Jesus and his brothers and other disciples, they were all devout Jews. They certainly didn't try to start a new religion. That wouldn't have even entered their mind. But Paul starts the religion, and it's very successful, as you know. Within 300 or 400 years of Paul's first churches, of course, Christianity became the dominant religion in the Western world. But let's go back to Jesus and talk about all these stories surrounding his birth, life, and death. Lots of stories. Everybody knows the stories. But let me just mention a few of them. Of course, with the birth, you have the virgin birth, which is unusual. And then soon after the birth, there were these wise men who had visited, and on their way out of town, they stopped to see Herod the king. And they told Herod, "Hey, we just visiting with a baby who's going to become king of the Jews." So Herod sends out people, and they slaughter all the babies who were under 2 years of age in the area. Jesus escapes, of course, so there's a miracle. But anyhow, and we have all the miracles associated with Jesus' ministry. There are actually 27 of them. And all of you have heard all of them, so I won't bother with those. But let's go ahead to things that happened at the time of Jesus' crucifixion, because there's some pretty interesting stuff going on there. For one thing, according to the Bible, the sun went completely dark from 12 noon until 3 p.m. That should have attracted some attention, you would think. Then there was a severe earthquake which split the earth open, damaged the temple in Jerusalem, and graves opened up, and the holy ones came up out of the graves and walked into Jerusalem. And according to the Bible, many people saw them. With things like that going on, you would think surely a lot of people must have taken note of it and have written things down. But no. All those stories come from the so-called Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. That's the only place you get these stories. The first one of those that was written, we call Mark. And it was written sometime after the year 70. We know that because Mark refers to the destruction of the temple in Jerusalem, which we know happened in the year 70. So here we are 40 or 50 years after Jesus' crucifixion, and a little bit more than that after his other miracles, but Mark lists all the miracles. He doesn't say anything about the birth, but that's neither here nor there. But this is 40 or 50 years after things happened, so he certainly was not an eyewitness to any of this. Then we get Matthew and Luke. They both have birth stories. And we get John. So my point is, all of these stories were written long after the events that they talk about. And let's see, I guess I didn't put it on here, but there are only, in all the literature from those days, there are only 2 references, other than in the Bible, to anything that has to do with Jesus or any of the disciples or brothers or sisters or anything else. There was a guy named Josephus who wrote a 20-volume set of documents outlining the history, the entire history of the Jewish people, from beginning right on up through the time of Jesus. He talks about everybody who was anybody and everything that ever happened that was of any importance whatsoever. He has one thing to say about Jesus. He says, some people say that a man who was crucified by Pontius Pilate was the Messiah. Then we have Tacitus, who was a Roman general, wrote a complete history of the Roman Empire from the beginning right on up through the time of Jesus, put a lot of emphasis on interactions between the Romans and the Jews, the wars. He was a general. He has one same thing to say about Jesus. He says, after Rome burned, Nero blamed it on followers of a man they called the Messiah. So that's it. So my conclusion from all of this is that all these stories of rising from the dead and performing miracles and all of that kind of thing are just all made up. There's no factual basis for any of them. The stories were made up, of course, to recruit members into the new religion. And, the stories are being told all over town today to try to recruit new members into the church. So I reject all those stories. And you might then ask, well, how does that influence your membership in the church here? Well, very easy answer to that. It has nothing whatsoever to do with my membership in this church. Nobody cares. Meg doesn't care. Kaya doesn't care. Nobody cares. It's just not the sort of thing that we talk about in this church. I've been a member of this church for more than 50 years. In that time, we've had 12, 15 different ministers. We've had trouble keeping ministers. We sure hope we keep this one. Let me hear an amen. But none of the previous ministers had any interest in any of this kind of thing. It's just not a UU thing. Tell you something else. Attendance to church on Sunday morning is not a requirement of membership. You want to come to church, that's fine. Don't want to come to church, nobody cares. Kaya doesn't care. So a lot of us hardly ever come to church. I hardly ever come to church. A lot of people hardly ever come to church. Some people come to church every single Sunday. Yeah, David Pate is here every Sunday. Carolyn is certainly here every Sunday. Now, why do people come to this church? I'm pretty sure they don't come here to praise Jesus. I'm not certain of that, but I don't think so. I think they come to church on Sunday morning to listen to the music, which is always good. I think they come to church on Sunday morning to listen to Allison's story for all ages, which is always good. I think they come to church on Sunday morning to enjoy the fellowship of other church members, which is always good. They come to church on Sunday morning to drink the coffee after service, which is always mediocre. But that's what this church is about, and that's all I've got to say.
Thank you, Bobby. Now let an offering be taken to sustain and strengthen this place which is sacred to so many of us, even the ones who don't come all the time. A community of memory and of hope, for we are now the keepers of the dream. This church shares the proceeds of the offering plate donation every week to help support important nonprofit organizations from Bryan with which we work. The 4 groups we voted to support with this year's donations are the African American Museum, Brazos Valley Blessings, the Pride Center, and the Brazos Mobile Food Pantry. We vote on this every May at our congregational meeting, which is May 19th, in case you care. Please be as generous as you can. This is a song called Let the Mystery Be by Iris DeMent. Everybody is worrying about what we're gonna do when the whole thing's done. No one knows for certain, so it's all the same to me. Think I let the mystery be. Some say once you're gone, gone forever, and I think that's a fact. Some say you're not the arms of the Savior, except for ways you laugh. Some say they're coming back in the garden, there are some little sweet peas. Think I let the mystery be. Everybody is wondering what and where they all came from. Everybody is worrying what they're gonna do when the whole thing is done. No one knows for certain, so it's all the same to me. Think I let the mystery be. Some say they're going to a place called Glory, and I ain't saying it ain't a fact. I've heard that I'm on the road to purgatory, and I know think the sound of that. I believe in love, and I live my life accordingly. But I choose to let the mystery be. Everybody is wondering what and where they all came from. Everybody is worrying about what's gonna do when the whole thing's done. No one knows for certain, and it's all the same to me. Think I let the mystery be. Thank y'all. We give thanks for these gifts that we have been given, and for those we receive, and for each other. May your generosity return to you tenfold. Now we got a lot of announcements. I'll try to get through all of them and do everything everybody asked me to do. All right. So we have new name tags, and if you haven't got one yet and you would like one, there's a place to fill out a form, and we'll have one magically appear for you next week. We have a new member class starting today at 11:45 after everybody tells Bobby how great his sermon was. And then we're going to have lunch provided for the people in the new member class. And we also have a UUWF meeting, which is always the third Sunday at lunch. The third Sunday at lunch, UUWF. What is that? The Women's Federation. If you aren't a member of the Women's Federation, I'm sure they'd be glad to see you. They often have programs, and today they get pizza and potluck. All right. There is a conference coming up, the Southwest Women's Conference, UU Women's Conference. It's February 9th through the 11th, and it's at Camp Allen, which is really nice. And registration is open, and the keynote speaker is somebody from around here. All right. Now, we have a fundraiser, dinner, and a show coming up. It is on Friday, February 23rd. It's going to be a big weekend here in town. We're going to have a show of all the great musicians from our congregation playing a show for you, and Molly Ward is cooking, and there is all kinds of food going to happen, and the tickets are on a sliding scale. So individual tickets are $20 to $40. It's a fundraiser for the church. So if you are you can put yourself where you need to be. If you're coming with your family, no matter how many people are in your family, the price is $35 to $50, and you can put yourself on there. If you have trouble buying a ticket and you want to come see me privately, and I will take care of it. Okay? Also, on Saturday, you know, our friends at the African American Museum have their big banquet on that Saturday, and the tickets are $100 a ticket, and Pam Johnson is organizing a UUCBV table, so we would love to have you there. Again, if you're having trouble, come see me, and I'll help you go. All right. The other thing you need to know about the dinner and the show is that we're going to have a raffle. And the raffle tickets are only $5, and the prize is half that money. So the more tickets we sell, the more the prize money. Sounds pretty good? So start saving up your money. We will have an online auction as well. There's all kinds of stuff coming up, but just I wanted to let you know about it, and by next week we'll be able to tell you how to get your tickets online or buy your raffle tickets, or maybe we'll even have some here. Okay, now time to extinguish the chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we gather together again. Remember the way of the wind and breathe and blow. Remember the way of the fire, sparkle and glitter and glow. Remember the way of the water and ebb and flow. Remember the way of the earth and grow. Go in peace.